Hello and welcome to the second advanced English video as part of the Barso ASAP YouTube channel. This is Ryan and today we're going to cover how to write the introduction paragraph for a research paper. All right, like I said, this week we'll be taking a dive into how to write an appropriate introduction for a research paper. For every 12th grader watching this, I'm sure I don't have to stress the importance of you paying close attention to this video since a graduation requirement is to write a 10-page research paper.
Congratulations, son.
11th graders, you do well to pay close attention too, since you'll be in the same position very soon. All right, let's start. If we're going to talk about how to write an introduction to a research paper, it makes sense to first define the thing we are introducing, the research paper. That way, we'll have an easier time figuring out what form its introduction should take. A research paper is not a paper you write to show your readers what you know through research about some particular topic. Nor is it a vehicle for you to share your new, innovative, or better ideas on some issue that interests you. Honestly, in isolation, no one really cares to know what you know or think. What it is a balance between these two things. You write a research paper about something other people and you are interested in so you can make a contribution to what is generally known about that topic. Now let's break it down by describing roughly the steps you'd ideally take when writing a research paper. The first is the field. Start by identifying an area of inquiry that interests you. So, why do nations fail? And formulate a research question. This part, of course, requires some actual research. The second thing you want to take a look at is the community or the audience to who you're writing for. You need to do some research about what other people, scholars, have thought, written, or discussed in that specific area or field. And then the last thing is where you come into play. If you're looking at what exactly an audience or community has actually written about or discussed before, you should reflect on what you've learned and try to see if there are any knowledge gaps in what's already been said about your topic, and if you can, attempt to fill those gaps, which is, in essence, the purpose of the research paper. If it's still a little vague, don't worry, I'll enlighten you in the next guided teaching part of the lesson. For now, I'll end this introduction by just telling you that to be successful, your introduction to any research paper must establish what field of inquiry your research belongs to, and following that, identifying what has been said by others about this topic. This is the same as identifying who your audience is. And then the last part would be your thesis, what your contribution is to what is already known by your audience about your topic. Again, your contribution could simply be identifying a gap in that community's knowledge, or both the identification and the filling of a gap in this community's knowledge. So, to make this concrete, let's take a look at two different introductions. One is bad, one is good. After I go to the next slide, you will pause the video and evaluate which introductory paragraph is stronger than the other. You'll write down what kind of criteria you're using to evaluate the paragraphs in your notebook. In other words, why are you saying that the one paragraph is stronger than the other? Try to be as specific as possible, and again, if possible, highlight a few sentences you feel make that paragraph particularly strong or weak. Pause the video now.
much in gratitude after all the times I've saved your life.
Wait a minute. This is only a trick. You wouldn't leave me.
All right, welcome back. Now, if we take a look at these two paragraphs side by side, I've highlighted three comparable components of the paragraph. The green part we'll call our hook. Our blue part is our background information, which should set up our thesis, and then the purple part is, you've guessed it, our thesis. And this part should of course give us a good idea of what we're about to read. Now we know this research paper will be about some topic based in the Great Depression, but if we look at the three parts and use my reflection questions, paragraph 1 is clearly better. Now I've written three questions to evaluate effectiveness. Is this paragraph written in an interesting or engaging way, which is typically focused on your hook? Question 2, is the paragraph organized in a logical way that flows well? That's all the parts together. And then lastly, do I know what this research paper will be about after reading this paragraph? Now that is normally contained in the last part of your introductory paragraph, being your thesis. So let's look back again. If we look at the hook, paragraph 2 does not really serve much of a purpose, except to maybe confuse the reader, as I really don't think that quote does explain anything about women during the Great Depression. Paragraph 1, on the other hand, uses a word like surprise to engage a reader. Although it's clear the author believes you won't be surprised, it does build some intrigue. Overall, this kind of word choice does serve a purpose to set up this paragraph. After reading that sentence, you'll begin to wonder, how did women endure this time in history? And in the middle, while the background information is similar, what makes paragraph 1 distinct is its focus. There's a dependent clause, shout out to week 1's video, telling the reader that daily life was predominantly managed by women. Given the paper's topic is about women during the Great Depression, paragraph 2 is worse off as it only gives the reader a general background to the larger topic of the Great Depression. And while the thesis in paragraph 1 is clearly longer, that's not the true reason I'd say it was better than paragraph 2. What the thesis in paragraph 1 is able to accomplish is to give the reader a clear roadmap to the content of the research. All right. Now that you have looked at two potential introduction paragraphs and reflected on which one is more effective, let's take a look and step back and break down the components of a research paper introduction paragraph. Make sure you're taking notes throughout this guided teaching section of the video. Feel free to pause the video when needed to jot down your thoughts and record information on the slides. In total, there are 4 components to a research paper introduction paragraph: hook, background information, define the audience, and thesis statement or stake your claim. Together, these 4 parts create a complete introduction paragraph. But let's take some time to look at each component individually. Depending on the overall volume of a research paper, a hook can be from 1 to 5 sentences long. This is the part of the paper that persuades readers to actually read the paper. A hook should be interesting and provoking. You need your readers to want to read your research paper. In this part, express your creativity and play around with syntax and vocabulary, but remember, do not just make your hook a question or a quote. It's just lazy. Now, background information is information that the reader needs to know about your topic in order to understand the argument in your essay. You need to be selective with what you put as background information, only including information that is absolutely essential to the reader's understanding. For instance, let's say that you're writing a paper about the evolution of the Golden State Warriors uniforms over the years. You should include information about how many years the Warriors have been in existence and how many uniforms they've had during that time span, but you should not include Steph Curry's field goal percentage for the 2014-2015 season. While this might be interesting to you or your reader, it's not essential to the reader's understanding of your argument. There are 2 steps to defining the audience. First, you have to define the audience for yourself. You have to understand who you would be interested in reading your paper. Your paper should have a target audience, a group of people that you're intending to reach with your essay. Secondly, you need to explain to your reader why she or he is your target audience. Why is this paper relevant to them? What will it teach them or make them question? The introduction and the whole text, for that matter, should be relatable. Here, during your thesis statement, you state your argument. You are making a clear point about what you are going to discuss and why it is important. The why is it important section of your thesis statement is sometimes referred to as staking your claim. You are reminding the reader of the overall purpose and relevance of your argument, which connects back to what we reflected on at the beginning of this video. Your thesis statement should be clear and simple, but never dull. You want the readers to read your paper, especially after the research you have conducted and materials you have gone through. Remember, there are two parts to any good thesis statement. The first part is stating your argument. The second part is articulating your subtopics and providing the reader with a roadmap for the essay. Both parts are necessary to have a complete thesis statement. Now that we've gone over the 4 parts of the research paper introduction paragraph in isolation, let's put what we have learned into practice and combine these components into a complete paragraph. Use the notes you took during this section and refer back to them as you go through the guided practice section of the video. For practice, I will be showing you 2 example introductory paragraphs. I want you to pause and do the following tasks in your notebook. 1. Read through each paragraph and identify the 4 components of the introduction. Write those in your notebook in the format on the screen. 2. Compare each component to its counterpart in the other paragraph. Evaluate which component is stronger and why. 3. Then evaluate overall which paragraph is stronger and why. Pause the video now. Now that you've done some practice, let's compare notes. First, I've identified the 4 components of the introductory paragraph. As a reminder, that's your hook, your background information, defining your audience, and then your thesis. Take a look at my notes for each of these components and compare them to yours. Did you have the same notes as I did? A good introduction will not only engage your reader, it will also guide the structure and style of the rest of your research paper. I'd encourage you to be this meticulous with your writing for each paragraph to maintain a paper that will continue to capture the attention of your reader. Remember, every sentence you write can impact the impression you give your reader. There will be a homework assigned for the 12th grade by your teachers. Take a look at the description for more information. See ya!